How's it going, guys? So I had an idea that it's something that I wish that I would have had whenever I was building my first cEDH deck, um, particularly Tymna Thrasios. I didn't find an actual guide out there that's really a deck tech that will go through some of the cards, or at least this iteration of the deck that I've built, and kind of explain what they do, how they interact with each other and other people's board states. I spent some time putting this deck together, and I really fumbled through trying to get it down pat my first few games. There's some mechanics that I just wasn't familiar with. I typically like to play around bracket 4, some high power stuff. Most people in my pod do. But I really wanted to go for something like this. So we spent the money, we assembled the pieces, and then I didn't know what to do with them. So won't waste any more time. I'm just going to go through some of these cards. This particular iteration of Tymna Thrasios is rated on the Commander Salt site at a 10.999999998. So it's definitely bracket 5, definitely competitive. Does a very good job of doing what it wants and stopping your opponents from completing their win cons. I'll go through the land package, the counterspell package for sure, and a few of the creatures. A lot of it is pretty self-explanatory, but some of it does need to be explained a little further for you to have a good grasp on what you're doing in each situation. I still mess things up quite often. You can ask anybody in my pod, but that's okay. So here we go. Tymna and Thrasios. Partner commanders. One has lifelink. The other one is your ability to draw your entire deck out once you get infinite mana, because that's what this deck is going to do. It's just a matter of when you are able to make the infinite mana. That's what you're going for. That is your win con. So with Thrasios' ability, you can pay for scry 1, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, otherwise draw a card. A lot of things that I was noticing with missed triggers in this deck, this was the biggest one. Scry 1, then reveal the top card of your library. I was simply just picking up the top card of my library and playing that. Do not forget that that says scry 1. If you do not want that card, you can put it on the bottom of your library and move on to the next. If you're really mana flooded and you scry and you got another land, you don't want that, chuck it to the bottom, grab something else. But Tymna is definitely not the star of the show, in my opinion, with this deck. Lifelink is minimal. You're not a combat-oriented deck. It's just not really in the cards for you, except in very rare occasions, which I will go through whenever we get a little further into this deck tech. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards. So she's a pretty good draw engine in the early game, but once your opponents get a good board state built up, you're not going to have a lot of creatures that are going to be big. You're not going to be swinging out for big damage. After turn 3 or 4, the odds of you even connecting with one of your creatures to deal a combat damage point is pretty minimal. So if you're going to play her, get her out early, which you absolutely will be able to do with the mana package in this deck. So first we'll go into our artifacts. Pretty typical things. A Soul Ring. Everybody knows what a Soul Ring does. Fantastic rock. The Chrome Mox. Mana Vault. Your Mox Amber. This card is an excellent draw engine. It's cEDH. The One Ring is a fantastic card. You're going to get protection for an entire turn, and you can tap that baby, get you a handful of cards, get your counter spell, get your win cons, get some tutors, whatever you need. The Mox Diamond. Pretty much any time that you have the ability to play a Mox Diamond, whether or not you have to sacrifice a $700 or $800 dual land. This is more versatile unless you're worried about artifact removal. This gets you everything you need. Turn 1, fantastic card. Grim Monolith. This is one of our win cons. I will set this to the side and we will come back to it whenever we get there. Lotus Petal. Fast mana. Get something out quick. The old Arcane Signet. Good. Mox Opal. This Metalcraft throws a lot of people off because you have to have 3 or more artifacts to be able to use it, but this counts as an artifact. So if you're able to play an Esper Sentinel and you know, a Soul Ring or any other type of artifact, and you throw this down, you're good to go. Metalcraft, the 3 artifacts to activate it thing, don't let that keep you from putting this card in the deck. This is an excellent card. And Basalt Monolith, also a win con, or a piece to a win con, and we'll get to that here in a little bit. So let's go into our creatures now, because this is not the bread and butter, but this is where you're going to find the big, I guess the keys to unlock the things that you need to do in this deck. Valley Floodcaller, non-creature spells as though they had flash. This is pretty good. I can't say this is my favorite card in the deck. If I have the choice to, you know, sacrifice this for something else with the Survival of the Fittest or any other kind of creature tutor, I probably will. But the ability to play a non-creature spell at instant speed is nice. You can win this way. So, Lotho Corrupt Sheriff, one of my favorite cards right now. It's just super good. Whenever a player casts their second spell each turn, you lose 1 life and create a treasure token. So whenever you're playing, you know, anything above bracket 3, I mean, most people by turn 2 or something like that are going to be able to cast, you know, either a mana dork and an artifact or something. They're going to be casting 2 spells each turn, and you're going to be making a treasure token. So by the time it goes around, you're going to have 3 treasure tokens. That includes you as well. Whenever you cast your second spell each turn, you make 1. So goes for you as well, and it's a really good card. Definitely a fantastic 2 mana. If you can get this out first turn, go for it. Esper Sentinel. If you have a cEDH deck and it can run white, you have an Esper Sentinel in there. Excellent card draw engine. No reason to not run it. Ranger Captain of Eos. This lets you search for an Esper Sentinel. When it enters, you can search your library for a creature card, mana value 1 or less. I mean, you could go for a different mana dork if you wanted to, if you really needed that particular color out of like a Noble Hierarch or something like that. But play this, get your Esper out. You also can sacrifice this, and your opponents, all opponents, can't cast non-creature spells this turn. So during your turn, say you're about to pop off and win, you can sack your Ranger Captain of Eos, and nobody else can play a counter spell to your Thassa's Oracle or your Basalt Monolith Kinnan to get your infinite mana going. So really good card. Definitely include. Grand Abolisher effects. I'll use that term kind of broadly, but that's what it is. It's the Grand Abolisher effect. You're shutting down your ability, or the ability of your opponents to cast spells or activate abilities. Artifacts, creatures, and enchantments here with Grand Abolisher. There's a couple other cards in this deck that do similar effects, not quite to the extent of Grand Abolisher, but in a different way, and they come with a little bit different benefit. So Grand Abolisher, great card. Orcish Bowmasters. If somebody feels like they're going to be drawing cards, you're going to be pinging them for damage, and you're going to be making a orc army for every card outside of the first one that they draw. Perfect card. Op Agent. If you can't find your demonic tutor or your vamp tutor and somebody else does, and you got 3 black mana, you flash this in. Now you search their deck and get what you want out of their deck. I promise, if you're running a cEDH deck, people that you're playing against are going to have a card that you can use that will benefit you to help you win. High Fae Trickster, flying, flash, you can cast spells as though they had flash. That's all spells. That's why this, I feel like, is better than a Valley Flood Caller. A little more expensive as far as the CMC goes, but being able to win at instant speed because you have this out, it's an awesome card. Kutzel, Malamed Exemplar. I didn't know about this one until I saw some other people kind of raving about it, and for 3, the pips make it a little bit difficult to get early in the game, but opponents can't cast spells during your turn, so there you go. That shuts down counter spells, that shuts down a plethora of their ability to stop you. And also, whenever one or more creatures you control with power greater than its base power deals combat damage to a player, you can draw a card. You're not going to get a whole lot of 1/1 counters out of this deck. There is some situational things that might happen during a game where you can get power greater than your base power, but for the most part, this is just an additional silence effect or Grand Abolisher effect in a creature. Mockingbird enters as a copy of any creature on the battlefield with mana value less than or equal to the amount of mana spent to cast it. So if somebody gets their Esper Sentinel out and you've got this in your hand and you want that Esper Sentinel on your battlefield, Mockingbird, pay, you got an Esper Sentinel. And it's got flying, which makes it a much better pairing with Tymna. So you can get that damage dealt, because flying is a lot easier to swing some combat damage at somebody than having blockers on the ground that you got to contend with. Hazel's Brewmaster and Devoted Druid. This right here is my primary infinite mana combo to win the game. The way it works is it's hilarious. So you got Devoted Druid. She's a mana dork for 2 that says you can tap to add a green to your mana pool. You can put a neg1 counter on Devoted Druid and untap her. So if she's on the battlefield, before you play Hazel's Brewmaster, this is the way that I would do it. Situational things happen and you can do it many other ways, but before you play Hazel's Brewmaster, if you got Devoted Druid on the battlefield, you tap her, you untap her, you put a neg1 on her, you tap her again, you untap her, you put a neg1 on her, you got 2 floating green mana in your mana pool. She's dead. She goes to the graveyard. Hazel's Brewmaster. Whenever Hazel's Brewmaster enters or attacks, that's what we're looking for, the enters trigger, because I don't want to swing her with the risk that she's going to die to a blocker to get this trigger. I want this thing to happen as she enters. So when she enters, I exile 1 target card from my graveyard. I'm going to pick a Devoted Druid and create a food token. So Devoted Druid is a food token. Foods you control have all activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with Hazel's Brewmaster. So to explain that is now that this is no longer a creature. This is a artifact food token. And it doesn't matter how many neg1 counters you put on an artifact food token, it does not die. It is not a creature. It doesn't matter. You can put an unlimited amount of neg1 counters on this token, which means you can tap and untap this and put neg1 as many times as you want, but it still has the ability to add 1 green to your mana pool. So Devoted Druid in the graveyard when you cast a Hazel Brewmaster equals infinite green mana, which pairs wonderfully with Thrasios' ability Pay 4, scry 1, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a land, put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, draw a card. You can draw your entire deck out, which means you have all of your counter spells. All of your lands will be on the battlefield because you drew your entire deck out, following the instructions of Thrasios' ability. And you'll have all your counter spells, you'll have your win cons, you'll have everything you need to win the game. And if you have a card like Cutzel or Grand Abolisher out, that is pretty hard to stop. So, these two right here, my favorite way to win the game with this deck. If you're running any kind of Golgari deck and you need to make some mana, throw these two in there. This is a 2-card infinite green mana combo. All right, so running through these a little bit quicker here. Fairy Mastermind. If you can make infinite mana, you can make an opponent draw their cards. If you've got a Orcish Bowmaster out when you do this, you can kill everybody at the table through damage, unless they can prevent it. But eventually they're going to probably draw some kind of a removal spell or a counter spell or something to stop your chain. But if you have things that stop that from happening, you can win. Orcish Bowmasters, Fairy Mastermind, Thrasios, and if you've got your infinite mana, draw a card, ping for damage, draw a card, ping for damage until the player is eliminated from the game. Voice of Victory, really, really good 2-drop Grand Abolisher effect. Opponents can't cast spells during your turn. Mobilize is nice as well, but this is the bread and butter of this card. This is what you're looking for. Bloom Tender for each color among permanents you control, which will probably, more than likely, by turn 2 be 4. You can tap that and add mana. Just so happens that Thrasios' ability is 4. So Bloom Tender is whenever you have a board state with at least 4 different color pips, she is a tap for a free activation of Thrasios. I won't say free, but all you got to do is tap her. You get 1 activation of Thrasios' ability. Get you a land, get you another card, allow you to scry. Bloom Tender is a really good card in this. Imposter Mech, very similar to a Mockingbird. It can come in as a copy of a creature an opponent controls, but it's also a vehicle artifact with crew 3, and it loses all other card types. So, I mean, if somebody gets that Esper Sentinel, if somebody has a Devoted Druid, or something that you want, and you don't want to have to waste a tutor to go get, and it's already on the battlefield, throw that down for 2 blue mana, and have it enter as whatever you'd like it to be. Elvish Spirit Guide, exile her from your hand. It's just I won't say free, everything costs something, but it's a good way, cheap way to get green mana early in the game. You just have to exile her from your hand. This card is a problem for everybody at the table except you. I don't see this card stick around very long unless I can counter something. This is usually a kill on sight card for this deck in particular. The ability to untap all my permanents, which means lands and everything, in order to activate this ability with Thrasios to draw more cards and get more advantage, and then at the next turn I just untap again and go through all that process again, getting more cards and more advantage. If you make it through 3 opponents' turns with this out, you will have drawn quite a few cards. I can't put a numerical value on how many, but you will have drawn a lot of cards. Very good card. Hard to keep around, but it's a good card. Delighted Halfling. Add 1 mana of any color. Legendaries, it's just a good mana dork. Noble Hierarch, good mana dork. Drannith Magistrate shuts everybody down except you. No commanders, no spells, except the ones that are in your hand. Bop. Kinnan, infinite mana with a Basalt Monolith. Whenever you tap a non-land permanent for mana, add 1 mana of any type that permanent produced. This is 3, So whenever you tap this with cannon out, it's going to tap for 4. You can pay 3 at any time to untap this. So tap for 4, untap for 3, tap for 4, untap for 3. That is repeated as many times as you like, infinitely, and then you can pay all that mana into Thrasios' ability to draw your entire deck into your hand. All of your win cons, all of your counter spells, everything that you need to win the game is right there in your hand at this point. So Cannon, Basalt, Thrasios, most of the time, game over. Deathrite Shaman, really good way to get some mana early. A lot of people are going to be playing fetches. Exile a target land card from a graveyard, that includes your own, and add 1 mana of any color. So you need something, just 1 short. You can tap him, exile your Scalding Tarn you just played, and you can gain whatever color that you need in order to be able to cast that card that you're looking for. Land package, we'll just run through this real quick. The big ones, the heavy hitters, the dual lands, the Gaia's Cradles, the shock lands, the fetch lands, everything that you can run. Gemstone Caverns. Ancient Tomb is a must include. Every shock land, Mistrais Village. Okay, this is great because you can pay 1 blue, tap it, and the next spell you cast this turn can't be countered. So if you're trying to win and you got to throw that Thasus out right now, and you've got this untapped, you can make it to where it seals the deal that you win the game. But yeah, all your fetches, all your duels that you can run, all the shock lands, and Otawara. This is really great because even if somebody has silenced you, or has a Kutsul or a Grand Abolisher or something like that out, you can use this channel ability. You can discard Otawara and return a target artifact, creature, or enchantment, or planeswalker to its owner's hand. So if this helps you win the game by stopping somebody, by removing an artifact piece, say you're playing another deck just like this and they're running Kin Basalt, they're making infinite mana, you can discard this, get rid of Basalt Monolith, and then they no longer have the ability to play that infinite mana loop. So moving on to our instance, basic stuff. Dark Ritual, Decon, Wincon with Thassa's Oracle. Choose a card name, exile the top 6 cards of your library. You want to get Thassa into your hand, choose a card name that's not even in this deck. You'll exile every card from the top of your library until you reveal a card with the chosen name, which will be all of your cards because you'll choose a card name that doesn't exist inside this deck. And then play Thassa's Oracle. At that point, your number of blue pips, which right here is your primary, it is your win con for this deck, Thassa's Oracle. The blue pips, which will be your devotion to blue, will be higher than the amount of cards that are left in your library, and at that point you win the game. This deck consists of a lot of tutors, creature tutors, Court of Calling there. Veil of Summer is a great silence effect in green. Anything that you're running in green, this is a fantastic card. Abrupt Decay, Tainted Pact, very similar to Demonic Consultation, it's the same thing. Crop Rotation, sacrifice any land, search for any land. So if you've got a shock land that's not the colors that you want, or anything that's not the colors that you want, you can play a Crop Rotation, sack that, go get the thing that you need, and hopefully win. Swords, Silence, Psych Rift. Born Upon Wind lets you play spells this turn as if you had flash, and it gives you a card draw. Vamp Tutor, Enlightened Tutor. So moving on to sorceries. Look at that, Creature Tutor. Culling Ritual. I've never actually played this card, I'm a little scared to, but it gets you mana, and it destroys pretty much everything that is a useful item for you and your opponents as far as mana rocks go. All your Soul Rings, your Arcane Signets, Felwar Stones, those things are all gone. So, an Imperial Seal, it's a Vamp Tutor, but only at sorcery speed. But if you got High Fate Trickster out, it's another Vamp Tutor. Creature Tutor, Eldritch Evolutions. These are really good. would think that you would want to read into these a little bit because of the amount of mana that it takes to get a certain creature out. This X is +2, the sacrifice creature's mana value. Read into these and find the ones that are best for you. I find that Eldritch is a good middle ground though. D-Tutor and Finale of Devastation. So here's where I save this for last, because you have a win con here in Finale of Devastation very situationally. Finale of Devastation says that you can search your library and or graveyard for a creature card with mana value X or less and put it onto the battlefield. If you search your library this way, shuffle. If X is 10 or more, creatures you control get +X and gain haste until end of turn. So, the plan would be to have infinite mana and draw a bunch of your deck. If say Thassa got exiled, worst case scenario for this deck, your primary win con, Thassa's Oracle, got exiled. Draw with Thrasios' ability. Draw your deck, most of your deck, whatever you want to do. You've got infinite mana, green mana, and you can play all the creatures you possibly can during that turn. Then you make, with Finale of Devastation's ability, all those creatures have +1 billion, and gain haste until end of turn. So if you have enough creatures on the board that you're able to swing through blockers, they don't have trample, but if you're able to get around blockers, if you've got flyers, things that you can do to try to remove some people's pieces of their board without affecting you too badly. This is a win con. A combat win con in a Tymna Thrasios deck is pretty strange, I'll admit, but it works. Rhystic Study, gotta have it. Mystic Remora, gotta have it. Survival of the Fittest, excellent creature tutor. It's a pricey card, but it's worth it. Smothering Tithe, why not have tons of... I mean, that's the goal in cEDH, is to draw cards, get that advantage, play your cards fast. Why not reap the benefits of all the cards that people are going to be trying to draw with Smothering Tithe? And then a Carpet of Flowers. This card right here is kind of a pet card for me. It is probably not in a lot of people's deck lists, but it's a 1-drop green, and I know I'm going to be playing somebody with blue. And whenever that happens, I will be able to add some mana during my post-combat or pre-combat main phase, one time only during each turn, my turn. So it's just a good little buff to get some mana. So real quick here at the end, we're going to go through the counterspell package. This card right here, I was not a fan of it. I thought, how stupid, until I actually got to see it in action. It is one of the most satisfying things you can do, is pull this card off. If they cast 3 or more spells, you don't have to pay anything. You can exile any number of spells on the stack. So if you play something and they counter it, and it just a bunch of spells get counter, you get in a counter battle, you can drop that bad boy down and exile everything. You can do this on somebody else's turn. If 2 other players get into a counter spell battle, you can drop that bad boy down and exile everything on the stack without having to pay a single mana for it. It's a great card. Force of Negation, Mental Misstep, get rid of those mana rocks early game. Don't even have to pay for it. If you have no mana out already, too bad. All you gotta do is pay 2 life. Get rid of that. Soul Ring. Offer You Can't Refuse, great card. Swan Song, great card. Flusterstorm, probably the most popular counterspell in cEDH. Fierce Guardianship, free counterspell. Mana Drain, perfect. Pact of Negation. This is a last resort for me. Every time I do, it's definitely going to be whenever I already have my deck in my hand trying to cast Thassa's Oracle. If somebody tries to counter it, I've got a handful of things, and Pact of Negation will be my last resort, because at my next upkeep, I'm going to have to pay 5 If I don't, I lose the game. But at that point, I'm going to lose the game anyway because my library's in my hand. So it's just a great card. And a Force of Will. So when it's all said and done, the deck runs really well. I like the way that it plays. It's very versatile. It can play against a lot of different things. I've played tokens. I've played storm decks, Izzet decks that are, threatening to win on turn 2 pretty quickly, or pretty consistently. So the deck is fun. The deck is pricey. You can make a version of this for probably much cheaper, but I had the bug in my head that I needed to make this specific iteration of the deck, and this is what I went with. So there are lots of different ways to build a Tymna Thrasios deck. This is only one of them, but if you're looking to get into playing cEDH or building this deck in particular, I hope that now you have at least some idea of what these cards that you are trying to play with are going to do. If you have different cards that you like to play, please let me know. Leave a comment. If there's something that I explained that was wrong, please let me know. Leave a comment. I am by no means a professional cEDH player or anything. I just happen to like efficient and devastating interactions, and this deck definitely provides it. I have no sponsors or anything like that. This is literally just a dude talking to you about cards and what they do. If you liked the video, please drop a like, comment. Hell, you can even subscribe if you want to. If you watched this whole thing, you are very patient. 32 minutes of listening to me talk about Magic cards. It's pretty impressive. Thank you.